Hey,
Well,
Josue.
hello, Erica. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well, my friend. Doing well. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, we've got
Good.
plenty of time for you to check out your stuff. Yeah, I just made sure the settings say you can share your screen. So,
Yep. Yeah, my biggest thing is I just want to get the presentation started. I've got a dual screen, so sometimes I
yeah,
might be showing the opposite screen on the other.
right.
So
I get it.
I'm gonna go ahead and then start to share and let me go ahead and
I, I'm staring at your picture right behind you with
oh,
that's awesome.
that's the best scene in that
I
entire
love
movie.
it. I can like hear him talking through the picture. I love it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So
That's fantastic.
all right, so let me go ahead and hit from the beginning and let me know if you're seeing the main page or if you're seeing let me know what you're seeing.
Nothing quite yet.
Okay, so yep, let me end slideshow. Let me bring it to this and let me show from the beginning. How about now?
I'm not seeing anything. I just see you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Hold on one second. All right, let me share. Here we go. What about now?
Nothing yet.
What's
Hmm,
going on?
I don't know.
Nothing yet?
No.
Well, that's weird. Okay, so
Let's make sure. Yeah, all participants. I just make sure I have the right thing checked on my end. Right, yeah. I mean, you're just going to the bottom, you're hitting that share icon,
yeah,
right? And then you choose which screen you want to share.
correct. Yep. I mean, I'm seeing it. Okay, so let me. I'm glad we're doing this.
I mean, worst case scenario too, and I'm happy to do it. I know it might not be ideal, but I'm happy to share it too. And you just
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is let me
tell me when to
just go
hit
ahead
next.
and let me save it and let me just email it to you right now,
Okay.
just in case. But we'll try one more time. Okay, file. Mhm. All right, Eric. I just emailed the presentation. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just
Okay.
let me log off real quick, and I'm gonna log right back in
Yeah, that's fine. Let me
to the
just-
meeting just to see why it's kind of weird that it's doing that. But yeah, let me
Oh
just log.
no, we haven't had that issue, so I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Yep. I'm logging off, and then I'll jump right back on.
Okay, I just got your email, so I got it. So let me get that up. Worst case here.
Okay. All right. I see it now on the screen.
Right, I think that's me sharing it. Which do you want me to stop?
Yeah, I would go ahead and hit stop real quick, and then let me share.
I think I hit stop here. There we go. Oh, now I see something. This is looking good.
Okay, so then
Perfect.
I'm gonna go from the beginning, and let me know if you do see it or if it shows. Usually this doesn't happen. Okay, so
Perfect.
okay, so it is at the open to buy point.
Yes, you got it. Yep, looks
Okay.
good.
So yep, so all I gotta do is just hit from the beginning and then it'll jump right on. So I guess I'll just
Correct.
hang on for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, what I'll do, Josue, excuse me, I will, because there's a couple folks that have like logged in. So then what I do is kind of like how you noticed at the beginning, I just manually kind of write their names down and stuff, just so I can do PDRs and whatnot. So
Gotcha.
I'll
Okay.
start letting people in. That way I'm not doing it all right at 1 o'clock. Um, I'll kind of say a couple words and then turn it over to you right away and we'll get started right at 1 o'clock. We
Yep.
do record this because I post it on our members only page. So you have to, use your pga.org login to see it. But some of our members like to log back in and refer back to it and that kind of stuff. So if that's okay with you, that's kind of what we'll do.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Okay,
Sounds good to me.
cool. All
So
right, I'm gonna put myself on mute here for the next couple minutes. I'll continue to let people in and then we'll go from there. Hey, everybody, good afternoon. We'll get started here in just a couple moments. I am continuing to let folks in from the waiting room, taking attendance. So appreciate you guys being on here. Like I said, we'll get started in about a minute. All right, everybody, it is 1 o'clock, which means we are right on time to get started here. Want to thank Josue for leading today's webinar. Josue, this is number 9 of 10 that we'll be doing here throughout the winter. Been a great opportunity for our members to earn some PDRs and learn some important stuff right during the off season. So again, appreciate you taking some time out of your day to educate us. And with that being said, Josue, the floor is yours. So take it away.
All right. Well, hey, good afternoon to fellow golf pros and buyers, merchandisers that are on. Greatly appreciate you taking time out of your schedule today to kind of go through one of the retail aspects that I would say is probably is most important from a merchandising standpoint is, of course, this open to buy planning. Now, presentation slightly different. We're not going to deep into spreadsheets and numbers and things like that. We're going to kind of look at this as more of what are those key factors, key impacts that having an effective open to buy plan is needed to ensure. I mean, I think again, if you were to talk open to buy, 10 plus years ago, maybe, a few out of 10 might have been like, yep, yeah, we use one, we're familiar with it, we understand it, things like that. However, that's improved immensely. Everybody has their own sort of system of tracking orders, placing purchase orders, forecasting, things like that. But, when they're not done regularly and or effectively, that's where we run into challenges with over inventory, having a discount, decreasing, margins, impacting costs of sales. So those will be, some of the items that will basically I'll share with you and over the years of my experience, but then also working with fellow merchandisers, buyers on their open to buy and kind of learning from them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of show the slide here. Erica, let me know when it shows up. Now, I won't be able to see any sort of comments and notes. So if somebody has a question, then just chime in and let me know. But let me go ahead and share.
Yeah, Josue, and if it's okay with you, for everybody on the call, I'll monitor the chat. So if you do have a question for Josue and not a good time to, take a pause or interrupt him, rather, feel free to drop it in the chat. I also have my email up, so if you'd rather email me, that's fine too. But yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right. Let me know. Has it popped up yet?
Not quite yet. No, I
Okay.
can see just like inside the PowerPoint. So there we go. Perfect.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. Well, like I said, we'll be going over open to buy during today's session. Again, any questions, anything that comes up, as Erica mentioned, feel free to chime in. She'll let me know. But of course, my contact information is there. So if anybody ever wants to just give me a call, talk retail, talk numbers, things like that, for the Wisconsin section, I'm always happy to support and take time out of my day to help anybody that reaches out. So feel free. But right now, we'll kind of go through the agenda of today's presentation, which again, we're going to talk about what is an open to buy plan and why is it important. Again, I'll share with you what I feel are some of the key elements and factors that affect, an open to buy plan. These will be the things that, sometimes buyers fail to look at when they're working on an open to buy plan. So hopefully these will be some things that we'll send reminders of what we need to be looking at, what we need to be analyzing in order to really have an effective open to buy plan in place. A couple open to buy samples, templates, things like that. Like I said, I'm sure, these days everybody already has some sort of Excel template or maybe a software that they're using, but I'll share some of that. Again, and the impact that an open to buy, is meant to have on your golf shop operations, and then resources available and so on. So we'll kind of go ahead and get started, and I'll start by kind of just asking that question of what is an open to buy plan. Again, the standard definition for it is, an open to buy is the amount you need to buy products with in order to achieve the set sales budget for a certain period. It is calculated at cost value and assigned to different product categories based on each category's contribution to total sales mix. So again, standard definition of what an open to buy plan is. What I find interesting though is, again, I've always calculated from a cost standpoint, but I've had other accounts and others that I've worked with that calculated from a retail value standpoint. So again, either method is not wrong. It's just how you look at the numbers internally. But I think the most preferred method, of course, is cost, because again, you're dealing with cost of products and goods. And then again, what does the open to buy formula looks like? So again, like I said, I'm just going over the quick basics of the open to buy, and then we'll get into, more some of the other objectives. But real simple, that formula's really never changed. But as you can see there's your formula. It's your planned sales plus your markdowns plus your end of month inventory minus your beginning of month. And that's how you kind of calculate your open to buy. So below it is just a month example to show, what an open to buy formula looks like. So yeah, very simple. But now we kind of get into why is an open to buy so important. And again, it has a financial and merchandising purpose. So what I like to do is just kind of open it up to the group right now. And, if anybody want to kind of chime in and share with why you feel is so important, and, maybe touch on what, an effective open to buy plan helps do your operation. Don't be shy.
Well, I know Josue, thanks for doing this for us, by the way. Danny Rainbow here. I know for our purposes, it's critical to everything we do when it comes to buying. I mean, we plan out our numbers in the, getting toward the tail end of one season, and we like to break it down even by vendor, so that we, go into all of our buying meetings with knowing an exact number of pieces that we need, from that vendor, or at least a dollar amount, and ideally pieces. Just kind of helps take a lot of that guesswork out of it.
Yep, that's a good valid point. Thanks, Danny. Anybody else want to chime in and share why you feel that this is an important factor in your merchandising operations? Okay. Well, again, so there's a few, important aspects of, the open to buy plan when you're dealing on the financial and the merchandising purpose of it. First one is, of course, is optimizing your working capital. So again, cash flow, anybody that's running the numbers at your operation, keeping a close eye on your inventory, how much you're buying, how much is selling, how much is just dollars sitting in inventory, not moving, is crucial. So, it impacts this immensely. And then the other aspects of it is, one, it shows the difference between how much inventory is needed versus how much is actually available. I run into this quite a bit with the accounts that I'm consulting with, where, I'll have a buyer that'll say, hey, Josue, I think we need a little bit, we need more t-shirts, we need more hats. But when you look at what they have in stock compared to what they have on the open to buy of purchases compared to what they sold, the previous years for the next quarter, you start to realize that, yeah, I actually have more or have less. So, it helps paint a good picture of understanding, again, how much you have in inventory. Gives the customers what they want, not what you have in stock. And what I mean by that is really, once you start looking at your open to buy and you start to analyze your vendor sales and kind of do a vendor scorecard, you start to realize what's selling and what's not selling. And, understanding that it's crucial. Of course, aids in the fixing of the ideal amount of stock that should be on hand at the beginning of any given month. So, for us here in the Midwest, where, we're closed for a period of time, then all of a sudden we're just booming in golf, sales peak, and then it just drops back down. It is a challenge to really try to manage that stock of, going, the first 3 to 4 months of the year with very little sales to all of a sudden, you're hitting 50,000, 100K plus in sales and then back to almost zero. Trying to manage that it's not easy. So, having an open to buy plan that will map out where you're at towards the beginning, where you're forecasting to come in at the end is extremely crucial. Again, it's a system that adjusts as per sales and stock position. So, the open to buy plan is not so much of let me enter this year's sales, what I'm purchasing, what I think discounts might be. It's also making sure that you're updating this document on a monthly basis, because as we know, one rainy month here in May or June, has a big impact on sales. So, if you're not updating the plan accordingly each month, ultimately will have a either positive and or negative impact in the last bullet point here, which basically talks about enhancing profits, while keeping your markdowns low. So I would say these are, again, the key aspects of what an open to buy plan is so important and the things that we have to be mindful for what it does. So now I'm going to open it up again to the group. Just a quick question again, just chime in. But the first question I got is, who is currently using an open to buy plan? So would we say, the majority of the group is using something, or maybe instead of, let me rephrase it, maybe anybody that is comfortable in chiming in and saying, yeah, at this point, I'm not really using an open to buy plan. So if anybody's comfortable in chiming in, feel free.
I'll tell you, Josue, we use one, but we focus almost specifically on number of units and not as much by the dollars, which may be a little bit unconventional, but for me, that's just a way to keep it a little bit more simplified in my mind.
Yeah, no, again,
scope
that's
of what our operation is.
again, there's nothing wrong with that strategy. A lot of it, again, we'll touch on that a little bit here as we go, that the open to buy is really focused on your facility specifics. I mean, if you're a facility that majority is doing hard goods sales, very little soft goods sales, then it's a quantity kind of numbers things. But then if you've got a facility that's doing a lot of soft goods sales and very little hard goods sales, soft goods sales costs range so immensely from brand to brand that maybe in that scenario you're looking at your system more by sales or dollars cost versus units. So but no, I appreciate you chiming in.
Oh, Sway, this is Jonathan here. So at Sand Valley, had all types of reporting tools at my fingertips, open to buys, Yellow Dog, etc. At Strawberry Creek, walked into nothing. So quite drastically different operation and tracking mechanism. So I am lost without the open to buy that we had at Sand Valley.
Okay. Thanks for sharing, Jonathan. Yeah, I mean, and again, and it surprises me still that, again, there's still a handful of clubs that don't have an open to buy plan. Typically it's, the pro or the buyer kind of just years of doing it, have a, kind of an understanding of how many quantities and things like that. But, the open to buy again is meant to really assist in, managing that inventory and driving additional sales. So, well, it's good to know. And then really the second question is, is there a system slash software that anybody's currently using as their open to buy plan, or is it safe to say that majority of us on today's call are practically still using some sort of Excel, Word document, table, spreadsheet that, you're kind of just updating, on a regular basis. So if anybody's comfortable in chiming in, if if they have a specific system or software that they use, that would be good to know and to share with the group. Because to be honest, there isn't that many out there that are of value for us within the golf industry. I mean, I've found and seen open to buy software for the big retailer box, your Walmart, your Target, your Kohl's type, but cost and value for those outweighs what the value would be a return for us in golf. So I'm just interested in if anybody in the group has any system or software that they're currently using, or is if it's safe to say mostly everybody's still kind of Excel, Word sort of document.
Excel here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
That Strawberry, just I'm building it as I'm going, but Excel document right now.
Got it. Okay. Like I said, that's what I'm seeing in the industry. Majority of it's just a simple Excel document that, again, it's either been handed over or maybe you took from one facility, moved to another. But yeah, right now, anything that you have or that you can use in place is of value. So that's good to know. Now we'll talk about, what are the key elements of an open to buy plan. So again, these are your standard kind of, what is it meant to assist and or do when done effectively? Of course, is sales forecast. That can't be any more important than us for us here in the Midwest, given our seasonality. But again, it's supposed to allow you to forecast, estimate, sales during specific periods of the season, whether you're tracking things by weekly, monthly, or quarterly. You want an open to buy in place that's allowing you to kind of just get a visual of, how the shops have been performing, month to month, year to year, and then, kind of year over year comparison. The second element is stock cover. So again, you can just call it, inventory kind of carryover. But basically, again, is just understanding in terms of sales periods, such as 3 months of stock is decided on the basis of the product category. So, breaking it down of, where your sales are coming from by product category is very important. I'll touch on that as we go through. Required stock, again, refers to stock holding or stock required to optimize sales. So again, certain things that I've seen over the years with, not only on the consulting side, but also just working with and assisting fellow buyers and merchandisers is, they'll go into the fall season pretty heavy in short sleeve polos and not enough quarter zip layering pieces. So, sometimes when there's not an open to buy plan in place where you're kind of managing, category stock, that'll have a tendency to happen. So then they get into those positions where, they have so much short sleeve polos, they're trying to funnel it out. So they're deep discounting. Now they're having to order more quarter zips that, whatever margins and, cost of sales they had going at the beginning of the year that was pretty strong, they ended up having to give away and towards the last 2-3 months of the season, because again, not really kind of optimizing sales based on the stock that's on hand. Again, the opening stock, again, understanding what the beginning of each month, with the beginning of the year, what kind of, end of year inventory levels you want to finish at. These are all aspects of what an open to buy plan is meant to give you in order for ensuring that you're making the proper buying decisions throughout the year. And again, same thing, closing stock. One of the things, of course, for us here in the Midwest, there's accounts that want to be basically almost at zero come, November, December, because they're going to be closed that first quarter. Other accounts might want to be at a certain end of year inventory number, cost wise, that they want to have in their shops. So again, that's just another key element that an open to buy. The intake of, the difference between required stock and the opening stock. What I mean by that is same scenario. If the buyer's not actively taking a look at like gloves or certain product categories and they're failing to rebuy, but then rebuying stuff that, there's plenty of an inventory, that has an impact on the intake of inventory that you're bringing in. So managing that is crucial. And then on order, of course, tracking what purchase orders have been placed, when are they coming in. This is the biggest thing that I like to share with the buyers that I work with and or assist is when you're placing that order, not only are you adding those dollars and quantities and cents into the open to buy plan, but you want to be very specific with your vendors and sales rep that you have an on-hand date request, not the whole aspect of, hey, drop ship this order in June, July. I recommend you give them a date, July 1st, July 15th, August 15th, whatever that is. And, if vendors are not delivering by those specific dates, then of course, that gives you the leverage of, being able to go back and say, hey, listen, this order is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks late. I no longer need it, take it back and or I'll take it, but you're going to have to work with me on some sort of discount in order for me to try to move it, through the end of our season. So that's another aspect of the open to buy plan that it will do. And then again, the actual open to receive, which again is basically what I just shared on the whole aspect of purchase orders, understanding what's already on order versus what's already been received. So again, the open to buy plan is meant for you to kind of really track and calculate all those items that you see here on these elements. So very important. Again, these are the things that will help manage better inventory and drive better revenue and cost of sales to your operation. So next item that I talk about a lot and I look at when we're looking at open to buy is what are those factors that affect the open to buy function. So, in my experience, I've kind of narrowed it down to these 5 main ones, shop planogram. Again, we'll touch on that here next, but that is one area that, in recent, meeting with clients and or working with fellow buyers, it's been a while since anybody's kind of updated their shop layout. I think since COVID, most shops have now invested a little bit more money, maybe new fixtures, new design, things like that. But having an effective planogram hasn't been in a place yet. So we'll touch on that. Again, we touched on it a minute ago, units versus sales. Again, it's interesting. I find a mix of one or the other. I haven't found too many buyers that are actually looking at both very closely. So we'll kind of just touch on that and the impact that has. Vendor selection, brand and product performance, and of course, historical data, using those previous year's numbers, info, in order for you to really, set an effective open to buy plan. So first one we'll touch on is a shop planogram. As you can see, it's not too complicated. It's basically, you're going through your shop, you're making notes of all the headwear fixtures, floor fixtures, four-ways, tables, shop counter, and you're basically, kind of mapping out the layout of your shop, the number of units that each wall unit display holds, the number of units that each table can hold, and then basically assigning some average cost to it to really get you to understand, where your shop should be at in order to keep it nicely stocked. I don't mean overly stocked or under stock. I mean, this is basically if we're trying to keep the shop open, looking like it's, looks good, not, somebody comes in December, January, and there's 2 pieces hanging on one 4-way rack and 3 or 4 pieces on one table, looks, empty. And again, and if that's the look that your club is going for, again, that is perfectly fine as well. I've got some clubs that want to be at almost zero end of year inventory. So, the open to buy, laying it out that way helps us, figure out how to get there. But again, for those of you that always want to make sure that your shop at least is stocked, looks professional, there's not, 4 ways, empty or wall area that's almost empty, then this is one thing that, if you haven't done so in some time, I would revisit it. Reason being is average cost of apparel, as most of you guys know, has gone up over the last few years. Embroidery costs has gone up. So, when you would look at a shop previously, a shop of this dimensions, let's just say, 5, 6 plus years ago, maybe when you look at the average cost then of the product and of embroidery, maybe it would be closer to the $40,000 range. But now, as costs of goods continue to increase, cost of shipping increase, embroidery increase, if you haven't really gone back and analyzed your shop layout and how much inventory should be on the floor to make sure the shop is full, I would advise that's something that maybe that can be done. Just to make sure you have an appropriate inventory level within your shops. I've had certain accounts where it's like, hey, our end of year inventory continues to grow. Why is that? Well, it's because 3, 4 years ago you were carrying X amount of brands. Their average cost was 25 to 35. Now you're doing these sort of brands that are 40 to 55. So quantities might be the same, but your total cost has increased immensely. So going through this and doing a planogram of your golf shop, if one has not been done so in the last few years, would be kind of a good tool to do. And again, it just helps from what that end of year inventory number you guys desired your shop to be, and then you plug that into your open to buy plan as your end of year sort of inventory costs. So again, planogram is one of those first 5 factors that I mentioned. The next one is units versus sales. Again, to each his own when it comes to tracking units versus sales, but my recommendation is, of course, to do both. Again, it really depends on your facility. If your facility is hard goods, mostly sales, very little soft goods, then controlling and managing the open to buy by units is perfectly fine, because again, average cost of clubs and balls and things is pretty consistent. That can be managed. But if your facility does a lot of the soft goods sales, where you've got $55 to $75 polos, 75 to 100 and a quarter, managing your open to buy sales and units is definitely of value. So again, creating a unit based open to buy means that the output can be related to the logistical constraints, such as warehouse and store capacity. Again, sometimes when I'm meeting with the GMs and the directors of golf, when I'm supporting and working with a buyer, a merchandiser, looking at how much storage is available is just as important. I think most of us could agree that very little additional storage space is given to retail at most clubhouse indoor facilities, which again can create some challenges for those that do large volume but don't have the space to accommodate the extra inventory. So understanding that and understanding the units of what are coming in and going out is crucial from that standpoint. Again, for financial control, I would say that it's more appropriate to use sales values. So again, versus units. So if your operation does a large volume of merchandise sales and you're managing financials quite regularly, going off sales values is the way to go. All sales are made at retail. The most common approach is to create a retail value-based sale forecast and generate a retail value open to receive plus stock in hand. So again, I touched on this earlier. There's certain accounts that that will do a retail value. Some do it at cost. So again, whatever method you're currently using, not one or the other is wrong. It's just a matter of consistency of using that formula, as you continue to move forward with your buying decisions. Okay. I've got a little tester here because again, this is also the aspect of understanding brand and product performance. Call it a vendor scorecard, call it whatever you wish. But hopefully what you're seeing on the screen is a white box where it says cost of sales percentage with discounts. So I'm sure there's a few quick math geniuses in this group that I'm just gonna give everybody just a minute to kind of just look at the brands that you see numbered there. Look at sales, look at cost of sales, look at the gross profit margins and discounts. And if anybody wants to feel comfortable in chiming in and letting me know which brand number are performing the best and which are performing the weakest. So I'll give it a minute and we'll open it up to anybody that's comfortable and just throwing out which one's the strong one, which one's the weak one, and then I'll share findings on this. So give it another 20 or 30 seconds here. Anybody that's trying to do the numbers.
Oh, Josue, I feel like 12 looks pretty strong. I mean, it's definitely by far looks to be the most popular as far as big quantity sold. It's got toward the upper end on dollars per unit. There's only one that's higher than brand 12 on dollars per unit. Your discount dollars looks a little bit higher than most of the others there, but there's also a lot more quantity sold and a lot more dollars sold than the others. So the discount is going to be higher. It's got a strong margin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good analysis. Yeah, I'll show it in a second. See if you're right. Anybody else want to take a stab at which one's done well, which one's struggling? Okay. I'll go ahead and show. And yes, number 12 was a very strong one there. And as you can see, the ones in greens are what I would say are, strong performers from a cost of sales with the discount. The ones in red are the ones that are struggling and again, and I like to share this because again, when you're thinking of your open to buy and you're identifying what brands you want to work with, sometimes I will see buyers, merchandisers say to me, "Hey, Josue, this brand is our best seller. It sells out all the time. We buy X amount." But then when I start saying, "All right, well, let me look at discounts," and if they're tracking it by brand, and then you kind of put that into play, that's when it helps paint a better picture that yes, you have a brand here that sell through is 85, 95% or higher, but your cost of sales are way too high. You're not really profiting too much from this brand. However, you have one that might be closer to 60, 70%, sell through, but margins are strong even with discounts extended. So, again, this is all aspect that, again, if your facility has the point of sale software that allows you to track discounts by brands and things like that, or by categories, highly recommend looking at that. For facilities that are, private members, there's already set discounts for them. Again, there's not so much you can do when it comes to this, but for those daily and or resort properties that don't have that standard discount that they give out to a member, these are the things to look at from a performance standpoint for the brand and or the product that you plan on bringing in and using. And tools like this are always extremely helpful as well, because when you are meeting with your sales rep and you're kind of reviewing business, you want to kind of have the upper hand to show, hey, here's how the line's been performing, and kind of giving them that or her that insights of, here's a reason why we're maybe going to scale back on how much we're buying, and or here's a reason why we want to continue to grow our business with you. So always keep that in mind. Discounts, it's not just looking at quantity sold. It's not just looking at the initial, gross profit margins, once cost of sales is removed. It's also looking at discounts, how much is being given by brand. And that'll give you a good indication of what's performing or not. So yeah, I'd highly recommend, you look at this. Again, another one is historical data. So when you're looking at planning your open to buy plan, you kind of want to analyze, how did I do by categories last year versus this year, and kind of show where, the growth, where there was significant growth, and kind of ask yourself, what do we do differently this year than last year that saw that growth? You can also look at it, which ones dipped from the previous year, and then also which ones have remained relatively pretty much flat throughout the year. So understanding that is crucial, because again, this all comes back into the open to buy plan process. So, if I were to, share with you guys right now, this top pie chart there, and I say, hey, you've got $500,000 in open to buy to spend come 2025. If you've got a young buyer or somebody that's new that might not understand it, being able to show them like, hey, if I'm giving you $500,000 to buy, and our average men's sales is 46%, they at least now have some data to say, okay, well, 46% to 48 maybe should go to men's of the open to buy, and then 10%, 11% to ladies and headwear. So these are all the things that, when you're working on your open to buy, you want to try to analyze as deep as you can, especially for those facilities who have years of historical, because you'll be surprised how, unless something completely changed, membership structure, maybe you went from a certain discount to a Mill River program, things like that have an impact. That ultimately will have an impact on how you would look at the open to buy for the following year. But if things have stayed pretty relatively the same over the last 3 to 5 years, you're not going to see that much difference on the merchandise side either, that you should be able to quickly build an open to buy plan, based on this sort of historical data. So again, going back 2-3 years, analyzing things, I think it's of value. Again, if we go back to 2021, COVID years, again, that could be an influx of, how we were impacted by that. So that could skew things a little bit, but it feels like the last year or two, starting to kind of level out a little bit. But so I would highly recommend, again, when you're working on your open to buy, to look at your historical sales data by category, to really analyze where your money should be going to. The next item, again, we talk about vendor selection. So again, another question for the group. There's not a right or wrong answer here. I'll share with you what I feel my top three most important things when I look at vendor selection. But if anybody wants to chime in and just share what you feel are your top three would be, feel free.
Josue, I would probably go with quality of goods offered, and kind of going along with that, like just demand in the marketplace for the product
Okay.
is really big for us as one of them.
Got it.
Number four there, how quickly the goods will be delivered. And I guess kind of to add to that, not necessarily just how quick they can get one order here, but just I guess being on time with their stated delivery date and not being a month late, 2 months late is huge.
Okay. All good. Absolutely.
Um,
Thanks for sharing.
yeah, it's probably my top couple.
Anybody else? And even if you just want to name your top one or top two, feel free. But if anybody else wants to share, that'd be great.
Josue, this is Mark Bergman. One of the things I would always look at, it's not listed, but I would look at vendor turn rate, because that way I could tell, even if, I didn't stock necessarily, if I've carried it in the past, it would be hard to tell. So I could identify which ones had, better potential based on its turn rate.
Yep. No, that's good, Mark. Absolutely. I kind of kept that in the kind of like on the selling history where again, you're kind of looking at selling performance, whether it's strong or weak or whatever. But yeah, no, turn rate, again, it's another area with inventory that some don't look at closely either. So you bring up a good point there. So, okay. I think I was almost identical. The first one is, of course, selling history. Usually, when I kind of ask this question, I do get a lot of sales rep buyer relationship. And absolutely, I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I built many great relationships with many of our sales rep here in Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, and other locations. But one of the things that I would always share with my staff is, who is your check coming from? It's not coming from, Peter Millar. It's not coming from Taylor Moore, TaylorMade. It's not coming from Titleist. So you always want to base your vendor selection on your history. So, you want that history, of course, to be profitable in order to continue. But when it's not, that also comes into play with regards to, whether you're going to bring them in or not the following season. No specific order here either, but the second one is how quickly the goods will be delivered. There's no question, again, not getting delivered on time, not getting, you place a 100-unit order and 60 some units come in and everything else is on back order or broken in pieces. Again, that just creates so many challenges, receiving additional costs. So how quickly the good will be delivered is something to, start evaluating your vendors on, make sure that they are delivering. And then, of course, the qualities of goods offered. So absolutely, you want to make sure that, the product is of demand within the industry and the marketing aspects, and that the quality is there. Like I said, there's really no right or wrong answer to any of these. These are just my personal top three, I would say. But these are things that you want to kind of touch on and really communicate with your buyers, merchandisers, on how they're, making their buying decision. And if it's a lot of it based on sales rep buyer relationship or what sort of, program discounts are we getting? There's nothing wrong with that, but that's when I would go back and evaluate, how are those brands performing versus the others. So keeping this in mind is important. And then one additional factor that's not listed on the top 5 there that I shared is, of course, the MPR, which I would hope everybody in the room knows, stands for merchandise per round. That is the biggest thing, that I look at closely is, the impact that rounds have on merchandise sales. Now, when you look at the number and the data here on this slide, that's from the AGM 2024 membership survey. You might look at these and say, hey, as a public facility, we are way low than where we need to be, or a private facility, we're at, $10 to $15 range sort of MPR. This is not meant to knock down that, hey, you're doing something wrong at your facility or whatever that might be. Again, this sort of info and numbers can be skewed, with resorts, that do, 5-6 million plus in sales and do 70,000-80,000 rounds, to a resort that, does under 1 million in sales and only does so many rounds. So it's slightly skewed, of course, but the AGM is about the only one that really does some sort of tracking for merchandise per round. So, if your facility is kind of falling in line with these average sales per round, I think it's a good thing. If it's significantly lower, again, it could be just an impact of the number of rounds that maybe you're doing versus the average shown on this data. But yeah, this is a good kind of information to understand and know, because rounds for sure has the biggest impact on merchandise sales. So, if you've got, the director golf, head pro, who typically look at rounds on the books, who are forecasting rounds, who see what kind of corporate rounds are coming in, communicating round numbers with your buyers is just as important. Because again, if you've come into the month of August and last year you did X amount of rounds, but this year you're at 10%, 50%, 20% higher or lower, that impacts your rounds. So the buyer has to take a look at the open to buy and adjust accordingly, to make sure that if inventory is in line to meet the potential increase in sales, or if inventory is a bit too high and we're looking like we're not going to have the same sales as we did last year. Now I've got to start, cutting back on orders, maybe scaling back, number of units that were ordered that are coming in. So merchandise per round is for sure a very important element and factor that impacts an open to buy plan that sometimes don't even consider. So again, for those of you who kind of manage rounds at your facility and forecast those out, if you're not communicating those with your buyers on a monthly basis, I would recommend doing so. That was my biggest thing during my time at Kohler, was always getting with, Mike O'Reilly, Mike Aschenbach, all those guys. And all right, where we're at rounds wise for the next 2-3 months. Are we ahead? Are we below? And the minute we knew we were pacing low, we would start looking at numbers, start adjusting, just to ensure, we didn't get to a point end of year inventory was out of control. So yeah, so this is one that I would highly recommend that we look at. So again, we've gone through a lot of what an open to buy plan is, things to be mindful of, things to prepare when you're looking at your open to buy. And really, once all your factors are in play, now it's time to kind of go through the process of actual buying, placing orders, so again, keeping these few items in mind when you are making those buying decisions. Again, they all play a part into your open to buy plan. One of the things that I would recommend to those on the call today, that if you have not looked at your pricing and made some adjustments here in the last 12 to 18 months, have you kept your hats at 25, 29, price point? Have you kept golf balls at this? You might want to start looking at that closely as cost of sales continue to go up on products, shipping continues to go up. I'm noticing not many facilities looking at increasing their pricing. So again, for those of you in a resort daily fee, it's a little bit easier to do. At a private club might be tougher, as members will notice, hey, I paid X amount last year, now it's this. It's part of that aspect of doing business that cost of sales is going up, and it just has to get passed on. So that'll be something that, again, I highly recommend to all of those on the call, that if you have not looked at your current pricing of key items, core items, and if those prices have not changed in the last 2 to 3 years, something to consider for the upcoming season. So like I said, now that you've got all your factors in play, these will be the sort of things that you want your buyers or yourself to start thinking and planning out for the upcoming 2025 season. Getting almost towards the end here. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's pretty common again that most are still now have or use some sort of open to buy template or software. Again, the intention here is just to show that there are so many Excel type, Word document type open to buy out there that are of no charge or that are available for you to just download and use. If you're a facility that's not currently using it or have one in play, highly recommend just go to Google, go to search engine, type in open to buy sample plan samples, and you'd be surprised how many come up. There are, of course, other, retail providers, online providers that might have a small fee to get, their custom full template. But as you can see here, it is really not that complicated. Again, your category would be a sample of like men's apparel, ladies apparel, men's outerwear, however deep you want categories to be, that's what it looked like. Or again, others might just do more of an overhead, just top line sort of numbering of, hey, here's the beginning of month, planned sales, markdown, and then how much you got available on the open to buy budget. So again, very similar, a lot of options out there that are available if you're currently not using one, but if you are, again, very similar sort of templates and feel. So and then really, now, you've got everything in play, you've made your purchases. Now it's a good time to understand, the overall impact that an effective open to buy plan will have in your golf shop operation. And again, with an open to buy is what it's meant to do is to help you kind of, what do I do next if these scenarios, end up taking place, within my retail operation. So, when sales are higher than planned, what's the typical thing that you have to do is, of course, now you're rushing orders or you're placing more orders for same product or new products. So, if you're noticing that your sales are increasing month to month, but you're not adjusting your buy, now you're rushing orders to come in and maybe paying expedited shipping, which ultimately, has an impact on your cost of sales. If the same product is not available, look for similar products that can replace them, get pretty standard. If you have multiple stores, we would do this regularly, at Kohler and other facilities I was at, is we would just internal transfer golf balls, gloves, things like that from one facility to the other. It'd be rare that somebody would question why, is this a Black Wolf Run logo golf ball here at Whistling? We would just, share with them that we ran out of Whistling, so we got some Black Wolf, and there'd be no issue with that. So things to do again when sales are higher than planned, and then of course some other tidbits of when sales are lower than planned. When those take place, you're looking to cancel, renegotiate, or adjust orders that have already been placed. Again, multiple stores, outlets at your facility, internal transfers could be an option. You're dropping brands or suppliers, again, that are not meeting, sales performance. And most important, you just got to investigate. You just got to see, why is merchandise per round low when rounds have increased? Is it the product? Is it the price? Is it the quality? So again, things that, you need to kind of be open and mindful of when working and seeing sales come in from month to month. And of course, another aspect of, having an effective open to buy and its impact, of course, it's, if you're driving sales accordingly and you're managing inventory accordingly, that has an immense impact on your cash flow within your operations. Again, it'll help ensure that the appropriate inventory levels are always in place to manage, planned sales. It'll kind of restrain, the buyer from overcommitting or merchandising, more product that they need. It'll help you make sure that you're staying in line with, sales plan goals for that actual year. So having that in place, and ultimately, there's more profit coming to the club or facility. If inventories are being managed accordingly, you're taking less markdowns, you're not discounted as much, and that all has an impact on the bottom line. So those are just, again, what I feel are some of the effective impacts that having an open to buy plan will do. Getting really to the last slide or two, and then we'll open it up for any questions or anything. But again, some open to buy resources, options out there. Association of Golf Merchandiser is one of them. Not only do they have various training manuals, various, open to buy spreadsheets, documents, they also have created a very strong educational program. So it'd be something that, if you're trying to, strengthen your retail skills, and or you have a young buyer that you see the potential and they want to learn more about retail, definitely would recommend them looking into the Association of Golf Merchandisers, if not a member already. Retail Dogma, again, that's another one that I've used and seen throughout. So again, either they provide some no charge, reports and documents and things like that. But they also then, you can sign up for a monthly, yearly sort of membership, and now you get into bigger depth of, reports, financial information, sales data, things like that, that might be of use for your facility. The boutique hub, actually, believe it or not, that's catered really for more of the retail industry, not so much the golf, but again, very valuable, especially for those facilities that do have, boutique shop and a resort gift shop, things like that. That would be another one. And then Tulio is one that I found. Again, it's a paid for service, but they have some pretty good open to buy planning software and spreadsheets, things like that, that you can use at your facility to help manage that. So with that said, that concludes our presentation for today on open to buy. We can open it up to the room to ask any questions. And as I mentioned, if anybody prefers to, just reach out to me directly and have a separate conversation, I'm always available and happy to do so. So I'll open it up or hand it over to Erica. We'll go from there. Erica, you're on mute.
I'm muted. Hello.
Okay.
I don't see anything in the chat, Josue. Thanks again. That was fantastic. And thank you to a few of you who spoke up and shared some of your insight there too. Very much appreciated by everybody on this call. We'll give it another couple seconds here again, though. If you don't have any questions, definitely reach out to Josue. He is a fantastic resource. And like I said, this is being recorded. Ooh. Oh, we have a thank you from Jason Hack, Josue. So there we go.
Jason.
But again, today's session was recorded. I'll get it posted here by the end of the day on our members only page. But yeah, Josue, any other closing thoughts before we hang it up for everybody?
No, 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 not at all. Like I said, greatly appreciate everybody's time and sitting in on today's call. I mean, I think we all know retail, I would say, ever since COVID has become more and more of a focus within the retail operations. You know, there was a period of time that, you know, whether your shop made a profit or not, it wasn't important. It was more about member events, member relations, tournaments, you know, things like that. But, you know, there's no question that that's changed a little. So yeah, so looking, you know, after those young professionals, assistants, buyers, you know, ensuring that they have a little bit of understanding of retail and the open to buy and how to properly buy and manage inventory, I think is just of added value for them as they continue to progress within their golf career. So yeah, so no, so I would say, like I said, I'm always available, happy to assist anybody, any questions, anything like that, here to help.
Awesome. We did have a comment. Paula Cicero agrees with me that your Tommy Boy picture there in the background is pretty spectacular. So thanks, Pilo.
It's a way to do a sales pitch right there.
Exactly.
That's one of the best movie clips. So yeah, it's funny.
Exactly. Well, excellent. Well, thanks again, everybody. Watch for, we sent out the registration actually for our final online webinar here a couple hours ago. So check your email, reach out to me if you didn't receive it for some reason. But wish you all a great rest of the day, and hopefully we'll catch you on the last one. Thanks again.
Thanks, Josue. I
All
really
right, have a great
appreciate it.
day. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Erica.
Yep.
All right.
Got it.
Take care, guys.